one of the proofs that Shadal brings for the time period in which Targum Onkelos was written, he says he brings, other than the proofs that we just mentioned, after all the text that we just saw in both Talmudim state that it was this Targum came into existence already in the time of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua, which means when the Mikdash was still standing. But beyond that, he brings several examples where Shadal shows that one of the things that Onkelos did in his Targum was to introduce certain essential halachot that people needed to know. When they were to hear the Targum in Aramaic, they needed to know the drasha, which is halakha ma'aseh of the Hachamim. So therefore he added certain words or certain concepts to the Targum beyond that which is written in the Torah, the text of the Torah itself. One such example is in Vayikra Perek Zayin, Pasuk Yod Tef. So we're beginning now Sefer Vayikra, so this is something that we'll come across before too long. The Pasuk in Vayikra, this is Parashat So, according to the annual cycle. Perek Zayin Pasuk Yod Tef, it says, V'habasar asher yiga' b'chol tomeh lo ya'achel, v'esh yisaref, v'habasar kol tahor yochal basar. We're talking about Zevach Shulamim, as you see in the previous Pasuk. So the Korban, the Basar, the meat of the Korban which is eaten, the Habasar, Kol Tahor Yochal Basar. What does it say in the Targum Onkelos? It says, Uvsar Kudsha, meat of a Korban, which is Kodesh, which is referred to as Kodesh. Kol de Yivke Kudsha, Yechol Basar Kudsha. You see clearly that Onkelos is introducing words and ideas that are not in the original text. It says, Kol tahor yochal basar. So if a person was tovel, a kohen was tovel to eat teruma, but we know from the halakha in Masechet Hagigah that if you were tovel to eat teruma, that's not sufficient to eat kodesh, to eat basar zevach hashlamim. You have to be tovel again. In other words, you have to be mechawen, to be tahor for the particular thing that you are going to partake of. This is mentioned in as we said, this is mentioned in Hagigah, in the Talmud Bavli, in the Mishnah, Staf Yud Het Amud Bet, Birvei Ochle Teruma Midras LaKodesh. In other words, even though a person is tahor to eat teruma, he's not able yet to eat kodesh. He has to go through the act of tahara once again to eat from the kodesh, from the basara kodesh, from the korban. So Onkelos is very precise, and he says, Uvsar kudsha, kol deyivke lekudsha, he who has made himself tahor, dafka lekudsha, he yechol basar kudsha, he may eat from the basara kodesh, but not someone else, even though they're tahor, be'etzim. So this is, what do we see here, says the Shadal? We see here an example of a practical halachic instruction, which is introduced based on an ancient statement in drasha of Torah Ba'al Peh, which Onkelos learnt from Rabban Gamliel and from other Chachamim in his time. He was aware of this halakha, even though it's not written in the Torah, even though this is Midivrei Sofarim, this is not min HaTorah. It's clear that the ma'ala that is required to eat kodesh, as opposed to eating teruma, is midivrei sofarim, as all those statements over there in Masechet Hagigah are midivrei sofarim. Nevertheless, because this is a halakha ma'aseh, because the mikdash is still standing and there are still korbanot, people have to know the halakha ma'aseh, and they cannot be misled by a targum which doesn't stress this point. So therefore, he introduces this drasha in those few words into the Targum. From this is one example where from which Shadal wishes to prove and to show that Onkelos would not have gone to such lengths if we were talking about a Hilchatara Mashiach, about something that was only relevant in some distant future time. But in his own day, it was not halacha l'maaseh. He wouldn't go into such a detail. But because the Mikdash was still standing and there was still korbanot, this is something that people had to know.
Thank you, Rabbi Bar-Hayim. We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. We would also like to suggest the following opportunity to our viewers. If you identify with Rabbi Bar-Hayim's message and would like to sponsor or dedicate a video interview with the rabbi in honor or memory of a loved one, if you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org. If you are inspired by Rabbi Bar-Hayim's message and would like to get involved in Torah Eretz Yisrael activities in your local area, please fill out the relevant form by going to the link which appears on the screen.